Hi, my name is Mike Hasty, pastor and co-founder of Growing Healthier Churches, and welcome to this first episode of GHC Insights. Now, we founded Growing Healthier Churches to help your ministry leadership team to focus on the health and growth of your church in real time. And in this first episode of GHC Insights, we want to help you join the story of your church with health metrics. Here we go. Now, every church has a story, and we so often hear it back to us in the way people tell the story about church. You might hear that your church is great at welcoming new people, at being missional, or kind of your church has a real emphasis on Sunday. There's a lot of energy around that. Or your small groups and discipleship is the way people really talk and share your story. Or maybe even in the way that people participate and serve your church and the community. Now, as a pastor, I'm thinking about how Jesus calls us to abide in him and bear his fruit, much fruit. And so I'm thinking about all of the things in the life of the church, and I want all the dials kind of off the scale for Jesus. But as I think about that, trying to do that all at once seems overwhelmingly difficult. But not only that, it seems actually really difficult to work out how you're going in any one of these areas. If we're just relying on stories, they can so easily be biased by what we want to hear or who we're listening to. And so how are we going in each one of these areas? That is where Growing Healthier Churches is here to help. Let me tell you a bit about how we're going to set this up. Imagine this kind of, on the left here is a kind of pathway of how new people might come into the life of your church. And different aspects of the life of your church, the integration moment where people become a member, their attendance on Sundays, small groups, serving. What GHC is able to do is take the data sitting in your church management system and show that data in real time into health gauges representing each one of those areas. Let's have a look at one example church. So in this example, this church is about 370 members. It's reasonably healthy. And actually, that's what we've got to work out. That's what your leadership team has to work out. And what we're going to be looking at here is these 5 health metrics. All these in real time. Every time this dashboard opens up, it's showing these real-time health gauges. And I just want us to zoom into a couple of things here as we try and tease out the story of what might be happening here. Now, this church has 55% visitor ratio, and we use percentages so that whether your church is big or small, you're relative to the size of your church, so you get to ask kind of questions for where you're at. And so 55% of the church membership base, so that's 55% of 370, are the people who are also coming through the doors of your church as new people. So that equates to about 200 people each year for this church are coming through the doors as new people. Is that a big number, a small number? We're not here to judge that. We want to prompt the question so that your ministry leadership team can ask the question of, actually, I thought it would be a bit higher than that. Why might that be? Where we're not entering the data in, or actually, that's just a representation of where we're at, and we've got to face that. Now, what's interesting as we think about new people is how many of those became a member of your church in the last 12 months. And for this church, 24% of those new people became a member. Now, we're always going to want that to be, nearly 100%, right? We'd love to see every new person become a member, be saved, all that kind of stuff. Fantastic. But as we face the reality of how many people are, we might want to start ask questions around, well, why didn't people become a member? Are people struggling at a certain point? Are some of our congregations doing better than others? We get to explore all of those kind of questions. But there's the number, and then there's the conversation that you're going to have as a ministry leadership team. Now, once people are in that membership category, we're looking at 3 health gauges here that we have expectations of for members that we don't have for newcomers. So how regular are they attending Sunday services? Are they a part of a group? And how many of them are serving? And in this case, we're seeing dials around the middle. Is that good? Is that bad? Again, that's a question for you to explore with your ministry leadership team. Now, in future GHC Insight episodes, We'll be drilling down a bit further into different aspects, but for now, we're just staying in the health gauges, and I want to tease out a couple of stories, perhaps, that might be for different health sets. So let's imagine this one here. We're seeing kind of a whole bunch of people come as visitors, so 85%. It's a bit higher than the previous one. And quite a few, nearly half, are becoming members. So here's a church that might be in a kind of growth phase, like a church plant or whatever the case may be. And that's great. And as you look at kind of as people become members here, regularity seems reasonable. Volunteers, I mean, all this could be higher, but we're just looking at kind of some stories here. But we'd notice here that the group ratio might be a bit down. And so here's a church, a whole bunch of people are coming, they're reasonably regular, they're serving, but maybe the pipeline into small groups is starting to struggle under that growth because perhaps small group leaders are hard to come by, we're not being able to reproduce them fast enough. There could be a whole bunch of stories there, but because the group ratio has been shown to us as a bit lower than we'd expect or hope, we start pressing into that particularly. And that's a great conversation to have. Here's another example where the health gauges for membership category looks reasonable. They're okay with that. The stay ratio is quite high, but the visitor ratio is quite low or lower than we'd want or expect. And so there could be a couple of things going on here. One of the things could be a data thing. It could be that this church is not entering new people as they come as new people, but late on in the process, so they're almost members at that point. Or they're a bit fuzzy around that boundary of what's new people and what's member. And if you're fuzzy about it, you're actually going, if it's people just chucked into the membership categories, you're actually going to start to skew the membership data. And so you want to be clear about who's a newcomer and who's a member. But let's put aside whether it's a data issue or not. Let's actually focus on, imagine this is a church that's focused on Sundays and it seems satisfied with that, but its invitational culture has started to drop. And that's something you want to be aware of. And hopefully GHC can kind of prompt us as a leadership team in this church to start asking those questions. We might be looking flashy and great on Sundays, but are we reaching new people? Are new people coming to our church? Now, as we kind of interrogate the story of our church, you might find that your church is in a health and growth phase. It might be in a sustained health mode, and that's great. But it might not stay like that. Or maybe in a church like this, we're starting to see the beginnings of a maintenance mode or preservation mode. And if your church is in those modes, it is really important to be able to get all of your ministry leadership team and your parish council or eldership board all seeing the same thing together. To actually say, this is something we need to work on together, to sort of pull in the same direction and to turn that church around back into health and growth. Those conversations can be hard, especially if people are not seeing the same thing. So hopefully GHC blesses your leadership teams in this way. Now, GHC is available for free at the moment. This is our website. You can sign up today if you've got Elvanto or Planning Center Online. And we're just about to release a manual spreadsheet version. You can start using these tools. And this is the My GHC that you'll get directed to when you sign up. There's a whole bunch of add-ons to dig a lot deeper. Friends, we're here to bless you, and we hope that this helps your leadership team to focus on the health and growth of your church for Jesus' glory.